Kai Reynolds had lived most of his life in silence. As a former soldier, he had seen many things he didn't want to remember. His days were now quiet, spent in training, running alone at sunrise and taking the kind of jobs that required strong hands and no emotions. When the Earth Security Agency contacted him for a new assignment, he didn't ask many questions. All they said was, "We need you to protect someone important, not on Earth, on Volantra." Kai didn't care where he went, as long as the mission paid well and gave him something to do. Volantra was a planet far from Earth, known for its beauty, its peace, and its people who lived in harmony with nature. But apparently, peace wasn't for everyone, not even there. The journey to Volantra took days through space. Kai sat quietly in the ship, eyes closed, mind empty. He didn't think about who he was going to protect. It didn't matter. His job was to keep them alive, nothing more. When he landed, he was met by two tall Volantran guards. Their skin shimmered faintly in the soft light of the planet's two moons. They didn't speak much, only guided him through a glowing forest that floated above the ground, the trees connected by light bridges that moved as they walked. It was nothing like Earth, quiet, peaceful, and almost magical. Finally, they arrived at a high tower made of smooth, shining stone. The palace of Lady Salari. Kai waited in the grand hall. He stood straight, arms behind his back, eyes scanning the surroundings. The walls were alive with soft colors that changed with the light. Strange plants hung from the ceiling, glowing gently. It was beautiful, but Kai didn't care. Beauty didn't keep you safe. Then she walked in. Lady Salari was nothing like he expected. She was young, tall, and moved with a quiet grace. Her eyes were silver like moonlight, and when she looked at him, he felt something sharp inside, like she could see straight into him. "So, you're the human," she said with a soft smile. Her voice was calm but curious. "I've never had one of you protect me before." Kai nodded. "Ma'am, I'm here to do my job. I won't get in your way." She tilted her head. "Oh, but I want you in my way. That's the point, isn't it?" Kai didn't answer. He didn't like games. He wanted clear rules, a clear threat, and a clear path to keeping his clients safe. But Sayalari seemed to enjoy making things unclear. Over the next few days, Kai began following her everywhere. That was his job: shadow her, protect her, watch everyone who came near her. He watched her speak to diplomats, walk through markets, attend glowing ceremonies under the stars. And he watched how people loved her. She had a way of making people feel calm, safe, and seen. Even when people argued around her, she would smile and bring them back together. She was kind, but sharp, soft, but strong. And she was watching him, too. "You're very quiet," she said one afternoon as they walked through a garden of floating flowers. "Is it because you don't trust me?" "I don't trust anyone until I have a reason," Kai replied. She laughed, a sound like water, flowing over stones. "You'll find that's a very Earth way of thinking." Kai frowned. "And how do Volantrans think?" "We trust first," she said. "We believe connection is the only way to understand someone. Without connection, there's only fear." Kai didn't respond. He had lived by fear for a long time. It had kept him alive. That night, as he stood outside her chamber door, he heard soft music coming from inside. Not from an instrument, but from her. Volantrans didn't just speak with words. They used emotion and energy. They could hum feelings into sound. It was strange, beautiful, and a little dangerous. Kai was trained to ignore emotion. He was taught to stay neutral, to never get involved, to protect without caring. But around Sayalari, something was shifting. Not love, not yet. But curiosity, and curiosity could lead to weakness. Still, he stayed alert. He reminded himself that she was just a job, a person to guard. Nothing more. But it wasn't that simple. One evening, during a state dinner filled with foreign guests, something strange happened. Kai noticed a shadow move along the ceiling. Too fast, too smooth. His eyes followed it. It wasn't human. It was a surveillance drone, barely visible to the eye, sent from above. Without thinking, Kai moved quickly. He stepped in front of Sayalari, just as the drone tried to scan her. He blocked the signal and used a special device to shut it down. No one else saw what happened. Sayalari looked at him with wide eyes. "You protected me without hesitation," she said after the dinner when they were alone, "even when no one else saw the danger." "That's my job," Kai replied. "But why do I feel like you did more?" "Than your job?" He didn't answer. He didn't know how to. Later that night, as Kai sat alone in his room, he found himself thinking about her voice, her eyes, her words. She wasn't just another client. She was different. She was opening. Something inside him he had locked away long ago, and that was a danger no one had prepared him for. Kai continued to walk behind Sayalari everywhere she went. From the quiet libraries in the floating towers to the open markets lit by lantern trees, he was always a few steps behind. Watching, listening, protecting. That was what he was trained to do. But something was changing inside him. It wasn't just the strange beauty of Volantra that got to him. It was Sayalari. Every day she spoke to him, asking questions that had nothing to do with danger or protection. "What was your home like?" she asked once while sitting on a crystal bench near a waterfall that sang with its own music. Kai kept his answer short. "Small, cold, gray skies, lots of storms," she smiled. "Sounds like a sad painting." "It was peaceful," Kai added, trying to avoid sharing too much. But Sayalari always noticed things. "You don't talk much, do you?" "Talking isn't part of the job," he replied. "Maybe not on Earth," she said. "But here, talking is how we connect. Even silence has meaning." That was how Volantrans lived, with feeling. Their emotions weren't something to hide. They expressed them through color, movement, and music. Even their clothing changed shades depending on how they felt. Kai found. It's strange at first. On Earth, showing too much emotion was seen as weakness. On Volantra, it was seen as strength. One morning, Sayalari invited him to a special training hall deep in the palace. The walls shimmered like morning light, and the floor was soft but firm. She handed him 2 training sticks made of smooth, glowing wood. "I want you to teach me how to fight like a human," she said. "That's not necessary," Kai replied quickly. "I'm here to fight for you." "But what if you're not there? What if something happens and I have to protect myself?" Kai hesitated, then gave in. He began showing her the basics, how to hold the stick, how to balance, how to block. At first, she was playful, laughing when she got the moves wrong. But slowly she grew serious. Her movements became sharper, more focused. "You learn fast," Kai said after an hour. "I learn what matters," she replied, eyes shining. Day after day, their training continued. And in between sessions, they started talking more. Sayalari told him about her family, her people, her worries about leading in a world where peace was expected, but not always real. "There are some," she whispered one night, "who want to take power without asking. They believe I'm too kind, too open. They want a stronger hand. I'm not sure who they are, but I can feel them watching." Kai listened carefully. This was more than a simple protection mission now. There were hidden enemies. And if Sayalari was right, the danger wasn't just from outside, it might be coming from inside her own circle. That same night, there was a celebration in the city. It was called the Night of Colors, a festival of peace and memory. People danced beneath glowing trees, released floating lights into the sky, and shared songs of the past. Sayalari insisted on going, dressed in soft blue robes that changed shade with her mood. She walked among her people with grace. Kai stayed close, eyes moving constantly, searching for any threat. But for hours, everything was calm. Then, without warning, he felt it. A sharp pulse in the air, a scanner beam moving fast. He turned and spotted a figure on a nearby rooftop. Two. Quick to catch fully, but clearly not supposed to be there. He rushed forward, pushing through the crowd to block the scanner from hitting Sailari. The moment passed quickly, the beam shut down, and the figure disappeared into the night. What was that? Sailari asked softly when he returned to her side. A scan. Illegal. Someone tried to read your body signal, Kai said. Why? She whispered, worry filling her voice. To find weakness, maybe, to gather information. But I stopped it, Sailari looked at him with deep, thankful eyes. You always do. That night, she didn't go straight to her room. She walked with Kai through the quiet garden near the palace, where the plants glowed in soft green and gold. Do you ever feel tired of fighting? She asked suddenly. Kai was silent for a moment. I don't think about it. If I stop to feel tired, I might stop doing my job. She nodded slowly. But what if your job isn't just fighting? What if it's also living? Kai didn't know how to answer that. Living had never been part of the plan. Survival, yes. Protection, yes, but living, feeling, that was something he'd pushed away long ago. As they stood there under the glowing trees, something shifted. Not in a loud way, but quietly. She looked at him not like a guard, but like a man. And he looked at her not like a mission, but like something precious. Still, neither of them said anything. The next few days were quiet, but different. There was something unspoken between them now. They trained, they talked, and they listened more closely. Sailari showed him how her people sang emotions into colors and light. She even taught him a few basic patterns. He was clumsy at it, but she laughed kindly, never mocking. One afternoon, while sitting near the glowing river, she gently touched his arm and said, When you're quiet, I still feel your presence. It makes me feel safe. Kai looked at her and felt something in his chest, a warmth, a pull, something he hadn't felt in years, but he pushed it down because he wasn't there to feel. He was there to protect, even if what he was protecting was now starting to feel like the only thing that mattered. The days on Volantra moved slowly, but something inside Kai was changing quickly. He could feel it every time he stood near Sailari. Her presence was different from anything he had ever known. She didn't just speak, she connected, and more than that, she made him feel seen, not as a guard, not as a soldier, but as a man. Their training continued each morning. Sailari was stronger now, faster, more confident with every move. She took it seriously, but there were still moments when she laughed and teased him. Sometimes she dropped her training stick just to see if he'd smile. He never did, but inside he felt lighter. Even the weight of the past felt smaller when she was around. Sailari, too, was opening up more. She shared her worries about the future of her people. She told him stories of past leaders, of wars long gone, and of the balance she was trying to protect. Peace is not easy, she said one day, while brushing her fingers through the air, painting soft light with her emotions. Some believe peace is weakness, but it takes more strength than war ever did. Kai listened quietly. His training had never taught him these things. It had taught him how to win, how to defend, and how to endure. But it never taught him how to live with hope. One night, she asked him to join her for a walk through the floating gardens. The stars above were brighter than usual, and the wind carried the scent of sweet herbs. Sailari wore a simple robe, and her hair was loose. She looked relaxed, but her eyes were serious. There's something I need to tell you, she said softly. Kai looked at her, always ready for danger. What is it? She paused before speaking. I received a message from the High Council. They believe someone close to me is trying to ruin my position, not through violence, but through emotional sabotage. If they can prove I am unstable or too close to someone like you, they could strip my authority. Kai's heart tightened. Why me? Because you're human. Outsiders are not always welcomed here, especially when they're close to people, in power. And someone noticed we've grown close. Kai stood still. Do you want me to keep my distance? She looked away. No, I want you to stay. I just needed you to know the risk. Kai nodded. Understood. But inside, he felt a storm starting. He had been trained to deal with enemies, but not emotions. And now, his heart was involved. That was the most dangerous battlefield of all. Later that evening, the palace held a formal gathering. Leaders from nearby regions came to discuss energy trade and land agreements. Sailari had to play her role, strong, calm, wise. Kai watched over her, always alert, always near. But tonight felt different. There was a tension in the air, whispers, side glances. Some guests smiled too much, others not at all. Sailari gave a speech, graceful and clear. But Kai noticed a figure near the back, someone he hadn't seen before. The man's eyes were fixed on Sailari, and he held a small object in his hand. Kai moved fast. By the time he reached the stranger, the man had already pressed the device. A sharp pulse spread through the room, too quick for most to notice. But Kai knew. It was a pulse meant to disrupt emotion control. On Velantra, that meant a person's inner feelings could be exposed without warning. Sailari staggered slightly, her robe shifting color from calm blue to worried purple. She held on to the edge of a table, fighting to regain balance. Kai moved beside her, placing a steady hand on her back. His presence grounded her. Her robe shifted again to soft gold. Trust. The stranger disappeared in the crowd, but the damage had been done. Eyes were watching. Rumors would follow. Back in her private quarters, Sailari sat by the window, looking out at the stars. Someone wants me to fall, she said quietly. You didn't fall, Kai replied. You stood tall, she turned to him. Only because you were there. He said nothing. His heart was beating faster than usual, but he didn't show it. She stood and walked toward him, her silver eyes full of emotion. You came here to protect me. But I don't think I was the only one who needed protection. Kai looked at her. Her voice was soft but strong. I see the way you carry yourself, she continued. Like someone who's lost something, or someone who's afraid to feel again. Kai took a step back. That's not important. It is to me, she whispered. You matter, even if you don't see it yet. Silence filled the room. The air between them felt heavy, but not in a painful way, in a real way. A truth neither of them could hide anymore. I don't know what this is, Kai said finally. But it's more than I expected. Sailari smiled gently. That's what life is, isn't it? Unexpected. She reached out her hand, not asking for anything, just offering presence. And for the first time, Kai didn't walk away. They sat quietly by the window, no words needed. Outside, the stars moved slowly across the sky. Inside, two hearts that had lived in different worlds found a moment of peace. Kai had been sent to protect a leader. Instead, he was learning what it meant to be human again. The days that followed were filled with silence, but not the uncomfortable kind. It was the kind of silence that comes when two people begin to understand each other without needing words. Kai continued his duty, guarding Sailari's path, watching every shadow, every movement. But something inside him had already shifted. She wasn't just his responsibility anymore. She had become someone he deeply cared about. Their connection grew stronger each day. They trained together in the early mornings, as the light from Volantra's twin suns filtered through the floating leaves. Sci-Fi had become faster, more focused in her movements, and Kai often found himself watching her, not as a bodyguard, but as someone who admired her strength, her mind, her heart. In the quiet hours between meetings and patrols, they would sit together in the gardens, near the glowing waters, where the air was filled with soft sounds of nature. Sometimes they didn't speak at all. Just being close was enough. One morning, while Kai was checking his communication device, a message came through from Earth Security Agency. It was brief but clear. Assignment ending in 10 days. Replacement will arrive. Prepare for return. Kai stared at the message, the words sinking deep into his chest like heavy stones. For a moment, he felt lost. He had taken dozens of jobs before, left many planets behind. But this felt different. Leaving Volantra, leaving Solari, it didn't feel right. He didn't tell her at first. He tried to stay focused on his role, but she noticed. Of course she did. "You're walking like your feet don't belong to you," she said gently, sitting beside him near the tall singing trees. He sighed. "They're sending someone else. I'm being replaced." Sayalari looked down, her expression calm but unreadable. "When?" "In 10 days. She nodded slowly. "I knew this day would come." Kai looked at her, trying to find the right words. "I didn't expect to stay forever. I didn't expect it to be this hard. To leave." Sayalari gave a small smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Neither did I." The next few days were filled with an unspoken tension. Everything continued as usual, meetings, events, walks through the gardens, but the weight of time pressed on them both. Every hour felt shorter, every word felt more important. Then, one evening, a formal gathering was held in the central palace, a ceremony to honor peace between nearby territories. Kai stayed alert, standing by Sailari's side, as she spoke with leaders, shared blessings, and smiled through conversations. But something felt off. He scanned the room. A servant carrying a silver tray moved too quickly. A guard standing near the food table wasn't one he recognized. Kai's senses sharpened. Something was wrong. Then it happened. A servant handed Sailari a small cup of golden tea, one of her favorite drinks. She smiled politely and reached for it. But Kai moved faster than his thoughts. He knocked the cup from her hand just before she sipped it. It shattered on the ground, the liquid splashing across the floor. Gasps filled the room. The servant froze. Kai moved in and grabbed the tray from the man's hands. His eyes narrowed. The tea smelled wrong. He looked at Sayalari. "Don't move. You were just targeted." The guards responded quickly. The servant tried to run but was caught and taken away. Sayalari remained still, but her hands were shaking. Later, in her private chambers, she sat in silence. Kai stood nearby, his eyes always watching. "They tried to poison me," she said finally. Her voice was soft but steady. "Yes," Kai said. "And it was someone from inside the palace." She nodded. "This changes everything." Kai sat across from her, his face serious. "I won't leave. Not now." "But your orders." "I don't care," he said. "They can send someone else, but I'm not going. Not until I know you're safe." Sailari looked at him, her eyes filled with something deeper than gratitude. "You've already given me more than protection." She stood and walked over to him. "You gave me your trust, your time, your heart." Kai didn't look away. "You taught me what it means to feel again. I didn't even realize how lost I was until I met you." They stood there in silence, facing each other in the warm light of the chamber. No guards, no missions, no politics. Just two people from different worlds, standing on the edge of something. Real. Salari reached out and gently touched his hand. Even if the stars change, this feeling doesn't have to end. Kai didn't speak. He only closed his hand over hers and held it, steady and sure. The next few days were spent uncovering the truth behind the attack. Kai and a few trusted palace guards worked in secret, tracing the poison's source. It led to a powerful official who had long opposed Sayalari's peaceful approach. The evidence was enough to remove him from power without violence. Sayalari stood, tall during the council meeting where the decision was made. She spoke with strength, not anger. She didn't seek revenge, only justice. Afterward, she found Kai in the garden once again. "You were right," she said. "Not all battles are fought with weapons. Some are fought with patience, with courage, with heart." Kai smiled for the first time in days. "You fought that one. I just stood by your side." She shook her head. "No, you stood with me. That made all the difference." They walked together through the glowing paths, hand in hand. There were still things left uncertain. The future wasn't promised. But in that moment, under the starlit skies of Velantra, they both knew that what they had was real, and real things are worth protecting. Kai stood quietly in the shuttle bay, the soft hum of the engines filling the space around him. The message from Earth had come again. His replacement was already on the way to Velantra. His mission was almost over. All he had to do was wait, say his goodbyes, and leave. But something inside him fought against this simple plan. Since the day he arrived on Velantra, his life had changed in ways he never expected. Protecting Lady Sayalari had become more than just a job. She had taught him what desire truly meant. Not just the desire to survive, but the desire to live fully, to connect, to care deeply. He remembered the first moment he saw her, her silver eyes filled with curiosity and warmth, unlike anything he had ever known. At first, he kept his distance. He was a soldier, trained to guard and protect, never to let feelings interfere. But Sayalari broke through his walls with patience and kindness. She showed him that connection was not weakness, but strength. As he waited, his mind drifted to the time they had spent together, the long walks through glowing gardens, the quiet moments by the rivers that shone under twin suns, the laughter they shared during training. He thought about her words, how she had told him that peace took more strength than war. He thought about the night she had taken his hand, the way her touch had made his heart race after years of silence. Kai looked up and saw Sayalari approaching. She walked with grace, but her eyes held a softness that made his breath catch. She stopped a few steps away and smiled gently. "You're leaving," she said simply, as if stating a fact, but with a quiet sadness beneath her voice. "I have to," Kai replied. "They're sending someone else to take over." She nodded, slowly. "I understand, but I don't want to leave," he said, his voice low but steady. "Not now. Not like this." Sayalari stepped closer. "You came here to protect me, but I think you found something more." Kai looked into her eyes. "You showed me what it means to want more than just safety." Her hand reached out and took his. It was a small gesture, but it held all the feelings. They had never spoken aloud. "I don't know what the future holds," she said softly. "But I want you to stay, with me on Velantra." Kai's heart pounded. He had never imagined this. The soldier who left everything behind to protect a stranger was now being asked to stay, to build a life in a world so different from his own. "I'm ready to choose," he said, "not because of duty, but because of you." The days after, that were filled with hope. Kai and Sayalari worked together, not as protector and protectee, but as partners. He learned the ways of Velantra, its beauty and challenges. She shared her dreams for her people and for their future. Kai's mission had begun as a simple job, but it became a journey of the heart. He learned that desire was not just a feeling, it was a choice. The choice to open up, to trust, to love. 1 year later, Kai stood beside Sailari at a grand ceremony welcoming peace between Earth and Volantra. He was no longer just a guard. He was an ambassador, a bridge between two worlds. As he looked into Sailari's eyes, shining brighter than ever, he knew he had made the right choice. Because sometimes, the greatest protection comes from the desire to truly connect.